So this is just going to be a quick video just to kind of review the conjugate acid and conjugate base that I spoke about in another previous video. So remember, an acid has a hydrogen to donate according to the Bronsted-Lowry theory. So acids are going to donate a hydrogen ion and the bases are going to receive that. And so the conjugate of those, so here's an acid, and so if I take the hydrogen off, it's going to move over to the base. The product over here, the conjugate base, is what's left. It's the anion that's left. And the conjugate acid is going to be what has picked up the hydrogen. So I wanted to make this video just to practice a couple of the ones from the PowerPoint. So we've got those definitions there. So it says write the conjugate base for the following. So these are all acids. Even though this one might not look like it's an acid, it is. And so the conjugate base for this is just me taking off a hydrogen. Remember, hydrogen has a +1 ion. So right now this is neutral. So I'm finding the conjugate base. And so all I'm going to do is take off a hydrogen, and then it's going to go down in charge. It's going to get a -1 charge. That's the conjugate base. And so the conjugate base on this would be me taking that hydrogen off, that +1, and it's going to make that nitrate. Now water, I'm only going to take one of those hydrogens. Water is kind of like hydrogen hydroxide. It's got a H+ and OH-, and so if I take a hydrogen off, you're going to get OH-. That's the conjugate base there. So this is one of our polyatomic ions. This is ammonium. So if I take, and it already has a +1 charge. So if I take a hydrogen off, it is going to leave you ammonia, and the +1 is then going to go down to 0. So the charge is always going down 1. And so this is bicarbonate or hydrogen carbonate ion here. So if I take off a hydrogen, you're going to get CO3. It was a -1, so now it will be a -2. So all I did was take a hydrogen off and make the charge go down by 1. So if that's a conjugate base, the hydrogen has been removed. Conjugate acid, we're putting a hydrogen on. So we're adding a +1 to this. So this is the cyanide ion. So the conjugate acid would be HCN. We only put one hydrogen on it at a time for the conjugates. And so this is a -2. I'm going to add a hydrogen, and then it's going to go to a -1. Here's water. Water can do both things, so that's why it's neutral. So if I add a hydrogen, which is what I'm doing, we get that hydronium ion. Here's ammonia. If I add a hydrogen, ammonia always adds the hydrogen to the bag, and we get that ammonium ion. And if I add a hydrogen to this, I'm going to go down to the neutral, and I get carbonic acid there. So to get conjugate base, you just take off the hydrogen from the acid. To get the conjugate acid, you add a hydrogen back on. Simple as that.